Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Come on in. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Good morning. Good morning, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Today, I wanted to kind of continue my series on what I talked about yesterday. Yesterday, I talked about elements of a T visa, which is a trafficking visa. And today I want to talk about the benefits if you're eligible based on what I talked about yesterday. So if this is your first time tuning in, or if this is your first time hearing about a trafficking visa or a T visa, definitely go to the live from yesterday. Yesterday's date would have been February 9th, where I talk about what it is. And then today we're talking about benefits. Okay, so if you are tuning in for the first time, my name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration attorney. I represent clients all over the 50 United States with their immigration matters. If you want to schedule a call, 407-995-6567, or send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. Okay, so let's get into it. So what are the benefits of a T trafficking visa? Just a refresher again, a trafficking visa is for anyone who has been exploited for labor, commercial sex trafficking, forced to work, under like coercion, fraud, misrepresenting what it is that they're doing, not paying them a livable wage, threatening them, and, you would experience extreme hardship. But again, my live yesterday talked a little bit more in details about it. Okay. So let's get into it. So the first benefit, of course, with a T visa. So a T visa is not a green card, but it is a visa. So this visa, it basically allows T survivors to gain lawful immigration status for up to 4 years in the United States. So, so if you get approved for a T visa, you gain lawful status in the U.S. for 4 years. Before you become a T visa recipient, or before your T visa is approved, you can be eligible for a work permit. If you get what we call a bona fide determination, if you get a bona fide determination, that usually comes somewhere between like 8 to 11 months. If you are going to get one, you get a work permit. If you don't get a bona fide determination, but your case is approved, you still will get a work permit after your case is approved. Similar to a VAWA-related work permit that gives you deferred action, the T visa is like, imagine if you filed for asylum and your asylum was granted and you're an asylee. That's how it is. Getting the T also makes you deferred action, so you will not be deportable during that window. And you have to show continuous presence in the U.S. for at least the next 3 years to be able to file for a green card. Sometimes if you're able to get a certification from a law enforcement agency before that 3-year timeline, you can apply for early adjustment of status to get your 10-year green card that way. Okay, and so what is one of the biggest things, with T visas is who it covers. So with the T visa, there are several family members that it would cover. So you being a victim of trafficking, that would cover your spouse, your children, parents, and sometimes siblings. Again, this is very age specific. So depending on the age of the person. So for instance, if you are under 21, you can include your spouse, you can include your children that are unmarried and under 21, you can include your parents, and you can include unmarried siblings under 18. So this is one of the most broad family definitions in immigration law in terms of a T, all the people that can come under that application, if you're eligible. And then if it's a T visa applicant who's over the age of 21, Generally, they can include spouse or children unmarried under 21. That's the standard rule. However, there are some exceptions. So, like if there's a risk of retaliation from your traffickers, and you can show that, like sometimes you can include siblings and parents as well. I mean, that one is not automatic, it's discretionary. Like they're going to have to believe it. It's going to have to be compelling for you to include them. So, but that's also an option. And then another big benefit of a T visa is that a T visa, it can forgive or waive a lot of things, where if you married a U.S. citizen and you have certain things going on, you're not able to, or you're not eligible for a waiver. But with a T visa, it can forgive or waive unlawful entry. It can forgive overstays. It can forgive unauthorized work. And some immigration related violations if they're connected to the trafficking. Someone called hair technician, you keep pinging me. If you're a client, I would never respond to you on live because, obviously I don't discuss confidential client information here. Definitely reach out to the firm, or use your client portal. Okay. So, and then, victims also have access to certain public benefits. So typically, once you get your T visa approved, usually you're given like access, like an email is sent with access to the list of public benefits that are available to you if you want to take advantage of it. Some are going to be federal benefits, some are going to be state benefits, some are going to be victim services. Sometimes it's even cash related for like housing or supporting yourself, counseling and support programs. So, T is one of those that really tries to help the victims once you are, approved, find ways to really start building back, from the trauma that was experienced, through the trafficking, with law enforcement. I know like a lot of people, especially now, for some people, they're very fearful of cooperating with law enforcement, but there are many forms of law enforcement when it comes to a T visa. Not necessarily, when you hear law enforcement, it's not necessarily the police, so it's not necessarily the FBI, because we make our decisions on who to report based on what the incident is. Sometimes it could be the Department of Labor, it could be, there's just so many trafficking hotline, like there's so many different ways in which we handle report and pursuit. So if that's something that you're a victim and you're concerned about that, we're happy to consult with you to go over like the reporting for your particular case and what that looks like and what it would entail, because one, they're the ones typically that will certify you, similar to a U visa case. With the U visa case, for instance, you need a certification to file for the U. With a T case, all you need to show is reporting. You don't need a certification to be eligible. In fact, I will say that a lot of times the law enforcement will not certify, but we will get the T approved, which I find interesting, but that's just what it is. Someone says, are T visas subject to the current pause in any way? T visas are not under any pause. Are you talking about countries? I'm not sure what you're talking about. There are no case types that are under any pause. So make sure, I think the frustrating thing about this administration is the misinformation from a lot of immigrants of what they don't understand, and they're taking sound bites from different people, or different people like sharing different things, or there's a lack of understanding. There is no pause on a T visa or a marriage-based case or a VAWA case or a U case. What there is a pause on is a pause on approvals from countries for, we call it an adjudicative hold. That's what USCIS is calling it, for 39 countries. We're still, there's still very many of those cases being filed. We're still getting the receipts. They're still going for biometrics, as I'm sure some of them on this live can attest to, but they're not making any decision until 90 days from January, when they give what the requirement is in how they want to review these cases. But by all means, if you're in that process, your case is still going through the normal process. It's just, there won't be, like, we've had people even, be recommended for approval. But again, because they're not allowed to approve until 90 days after the January 1st, hold. But it's not necessarily related to a T or a non-T. It's related, an adjudicative hold is to, your approval. So if you're eligible for a T, you can definitely apply. Oh yeah, and then what are other elements? And then another thing is with the T visa, there are no filing fees, and then there are no filing fees for the waiver as well, and there are no filing fees if you do appeal. Let's say your case was denied for whatever reason, and you did appeal it. Someone is asking. Okay, let me just see. Someone is asking, my spouse is a green card holder and we still live together. She's my abuser, so I get a green card via vow. Can I apply for citizenship after 3 years or 5 years? Any problem if I live together with her and we file taxes together? Well, the answer will depend. Really, the 3-year eligibility goes based on the rule of threes, where the person has to be a U.S. citizen, filed 3 years, you've been married for 3 years, you've had your green card for 3 years. Otherwise, it's the 5-year requirement. Living with an abuser doesn't really stop you from being eligible. It doesn't mean, like, living with an abuser doesn't stop the fact that you were abused, right? It's like if you said, if your spouse cheated on you, like, continuing to stay with your spouse doesn't mean that your spouse didn't cheat on you. So, you cannot be penalized that you've chosen or you've not yet maybe had the courage to leave that relationship, or not. So, that really doesn't weigh into whether or not, your case, you're eligible for naturalization or not. Okay. Does the public charge effect on the VAWA cases? I submitted a VAWA case 3 years ago, and last year I got housing assistance. They pay 25% of the rent and electric bill assistance. Does this have an effect on me? No. Public charge really is related to cases where there is a financial affidavit of support. So with humanitarian cases, you're exempt from public charge rule. Just like when you fill out your 485 form, it asks, are you subject to the public charge rule, or are you not subject to the public charge rule, right? In this instance, think about it this way. If you're filing an I-485, which is a green card application, right? It is only those who have to fill out a financial affidavit of support that will be subject to the public charge rule, okay? What's the bulletin for this month of January, and how do people know if they can adjust their status if approved of an I-130 since 2023? So we're actually in the month of February. And I don't know what your category is. As you know, the bulletin goes from F1 to F4. So I would need to know what your category is, what country you're from, because the bulletin board is just not a one answer. This is when you can file. It's not a question that can easily be answered, with just that sentence. You got to think about, one, what is your category? F1, F2, F3, F4. What country are you from? Because certain countries have a longer bulletin. Third, if you got an I-130 that was approved, we want to know, one, who's filing for you? Are you in a period of authorized stay? Are you in legal status? Because if you're not in legal status, it doesn't matter whether the bulletin becomes current. You'll have to leave the country after you get a 601A waiver, right? So Evangelist, I see you saying Haiti, you're from Haiti, daughter's a green card holder and unmarried. So wait, let me make sure I'm understanding. Your daughter is a green card holder and your daughter filed for you as a parent? Is that what you're saying? Because if that's the case, then you're not eligible though. like a green card holder cannot file for a parent, only a U.S. citizen. So, I think that you need to be clear about that. I'm married with my wife. She has disappeared. I called her, no answering. I have my case before immigration. What can I do for my appointment at immigration? Have you filed a police report to see what's going on? Have you reached out to her family members? Du Mornay, you might want to do like a consult to determine if you maybe are eligible for a self-petition if there are other things going on in your marriage. So if there's abuse going on, you might be able to do what we call an abeyance request, and convert your petition. But, without knowing more, it's really hard to, answer you. Can the T visa filing help someone who already has an order of removal? Yes. I mean, obviously, if you have an order of removal, you're always still at risk, because they've actually ordered you deported and you've not left. But if your T visa is approved, you can try to file a motion to reopen and terminate that, based on this. But again, you're always still at risk on any given day until you have that approval, because you have an order of removal. An order of removal means that they have already decided that you should be deported. Okay, someone is asking, is it safe to travel to Nigeria using a combo card? Chooks, without knowing your immigration history, I can't personally answer your question. The people that I suggest they don't travel are people with any kind of criminal record. If you have any kind of criminal record, I wouldn't suggest doing international trips right now. If your case is in the RFE stage or NOID stage, or it's post-interview, like meaning you've had an interview and they've not made a decision yet, I wouldn't suggest an international trip. If you're in the RFE stage, they requested additional evidence and you have responded to it, I would not travel. If you got annoyed and you've responded to it, in fact, if you've got annoyed, whether you've responded or not, I would not travel. So find where you fall in that category to decide whether it's safe for you to travel or not. Okay, let me take some more questions. I have a lot more questions on Facebook and YouTube today. Let's see here. A lot of the questions seem to be continuing from another. It's easier if you guys type all your question in one question, not like different comments, because what happens is other people comment or other people join, so I can't see the remaining question. If your previous spouse wrote lies to USCIS and now you have an approved vow, can that affect your I-485? Yeah, it could affect it if you are not able to rebut whatever lies. So you want to make sure that before you're scheduled for an interview, or if it's after an interview that it was brought to your attention that they lied and now maybe they have like a notice of intent to revoke your approval, you want to make sure you gather all your evidence. Like, I can't stress that out enough. Like, anything that you're applying to USCIS now, not even just now, just in general, like this has always been my modus of operation here, flood the zone with evidence. Like, you can't just have skeletal stuff. Like, so gather those evidence, whether or not you're submitting it right now, but you always want to be in anticipation that you might have to submit that evidence, especially when you get things like a notice of intent to deny or a notice of intent to revoke, because those ones have a very small 30 to 33 day window. So you don't really have a lot of time versus an RFE where they give you 87 days. So you want to gather the evidence, in your case, Geraldine, to prove otherwise that your spouse was lying. Right? That's what I would recommend you do. Okay. Okay, let's see. Jamal Bangs, I have an I-751 and N-400 pending. I'm from one of those countries that was put on hold. Is it safe to travel outside the U.S. with my 1-year stamp on your passport, as long as you don't fall under any of the categories that I mentioned earlier? No criminal records, no RFEs, no NOIDs, no post-interview. then you should be able to travel. Okay, let's see. No criminal record or anything, and I have been traveling with AP, but now there is a partial travel ban on Nigeria. Is it safe to use the AP? Guys, remember, I hate to say this, but reading is fundamental. I know you guys listen to I'm sure you guys listen to probably like hundreds of immigration lawyers, not just me, but sometimes also read for yourself, so that you can understand what it is that they're saying. An advanced parole is not included in the travel ban. Like the travel ban is for like if you're outside of the United States, it is for visas into the United States. So if you are from one of the countries, in your case, Nigeria, remember, advanced parole is not a visa. The US has already granted you that. But also, if you do read the instructions, it also does tell you that if you had a visa that was approved before the travel ban became effective, this is not applicable to you. People are still traveling every single day if they got their visas before, but yours is not even a visa situation. Yours is that you have advanced parole, which permits you back into the United States. Please, guys, make sure you're not just that you're really paying attention. Like it's so easy to pull up the policy manual yourselves, maybe read a little bit of that and then listen to an attorney to help then dissect what you don't understand. But the best thing that I have ever done to myself in this administration is to quiet the noise and to literally choose how much information that I want to be consumed with, because after a while, it's not sustainable, to live that way. It's like, oh my gosh, this person said this. Oh, my friend said this. Oh, I saw this on Reddit. Oh, I saw this on this attorney's Instagram. Oh, I saw this on YouTube. You got to understand that a lot of times people give information, and there are a few things that could happen. They give information to be inflammatory or to sensationalize or to get shares or followers, or to go viral, or oftentimes some people are not very clear, with the information they give, so you want to make sure that if you don't understand what they're giving or you're not sure, that you literally pull up the document yourself, because if you read it, you will see that, some of those questions you're asking, it's literally in there, so please, guys, try to reduce this misinformation, because it's, for a lot of us in the immigration space, it's a bit frustrating, because, I feel like I talk about this all the time, but, we continue to. Okay, so Evangelist, this is a follow-up to your other question where you said your mom filed for you since 2018 and you got approved in 2023, and you are an unmarried child of a green card holder. As long as you are in status, that would be the only way, because right now the processing for adjustment, any cases with the I-130 was before January 22nd of 2025, right? That said, the only way for you to adjust, Evangelist, is that you must be in legal status. So I don't know what your status is. That's the only way. If you're not in legal status, you can't adjust. You can do a 601A waiver. And once you do a 601A waiver, if that is approved, then you're going to have to consular process. Okay. Dormone says, thank you for your support to the population of immigrants. And then Meletta says, thanks for all the information you provide on YouTube. Your love. Thank you guys so much. Honestly, it's really, some days I debate, like, because I feel like I say the same thing all the time, but, I guess maybe sometimes people are tuning in for the first time, or, you need to say it a few times for them to understand. But guys, please save yourselves from this misinformation. It's really not sustainable, like, to live like this, and the amount of misinformation is insane. It's just insane, Can you please talk about some things that one can and cannot do while they await approval of their VAWA and EAD? First and foremost, you cannot remarry. This one is, in case you didn't know that, if you file for VAWA, you cannot remarry while your case is pending. You got to wait till they approve your VAWA case. You cannot get into any criminal infractions. What is a top way in the last year that I've seen people get picked up by ICE through traffic infractions. That is the number one way. I will tell you, in all of last year and this year, knock on wood, and by God's grace, it will continue to be that way. We've had 5 people detained at our firm. 5 people that were clients. I'm not talking about people who came to us as removal cases. I'm talking about people who we had normal files for, and all of a sudden we're getting calls from, detention, I'm detained, whatever it is. We've had 5 people. And of those 5, 3 of them got detained because of a traffic infraction. That is the quickest way for you to be picked up by ICE. So what do I mean by that? You do not need to be speeding. You do not need to have broken taillights. You need to be following the rules of driving in your state. You need to be making sure that you're trafficking before you go to the next lane, right? And that you don't have any reason, because basically in a traffic, a cop cannot stop you unless they have probable cause to stop you. This is like criminal 101, which of course many of you might not know if you're not in the legal field. In order for you to be stopped in traffic, there has to be probable cause. And when you give them probable cause to stop you by violating, a traffic process or procedure, what happens next? Driver's license and insurance. And then they're like, oh, you don't even have one. We're working or we're cooperating with ICE, so we have to report you to ICE, because a lot of states are now working with ICE. Granted, there are a few states like Virginia who has terminated that and said they're no longer working with ICE, and there are a few more other states. I just don't remember all of them offhand, but I know Virginia's is like last week that they decided to do that, and many other states because of all that's happening. But that is the number one don't. Do not put yourself, in a situation where you give a cop probable cause to stop you. As you can hear, I'm not talking about, don't commit any crime, because that's common sense. You, of course, shouldn't be committing any crime. That's common sense. But again, this is the one way to get yourself the quickest into detention, traffic infractions. So drive safely, because as long as you're driving safely, there is no probable cause to stop you. Okay? Let's see. I gotta jump off. Let me see if I can do another few minutes. Do you guys? Oh yeah, I have to jump off, guys. But again, try to get the accurate information, guys. Stop letting misinformation ruin your lives, because mentally, I just can't imagine. I'm already under immense stress and dealing with grief myself, and so adding the nonsense that you see online, I can't even take on that, as well. So if you'd like to schedule a consultation, give us a call, 407-995-6567. Our other number is 678-325-1037. You can also send a message on WhatsApp, 404-333-8751. If you didn't get this number, it's right there in our profile. Click our profile on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and we will be happy to assist you guys. Stop letting fear ruin your chances of getting legal. You cannot be stuck in your house for 4 years. Get yourself legal if you're eligible for any of these things that we've talked about. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.